Okay, guys, this is the notes for demand. I'll go ahead and tell you this. This one's going to be a little bit tricky as we get further into it today. It'll probably be okay. This is basically the way that you act as a consumer all the time, and you'll see kind of what we're talking about as we move through this. So, what is your demand? And I'm going to kind of just scroll through these. Demand is how much you're willing to pay and how much of something that we're able to buy. Right. So, a good example here for demand, maybe I have a willingness to buy dog food and I actually have the money to be able to pay for it. So, in that case, I do have demand for dog food. A story that I always like to share is my wife has the willingness to buy a yacht, but we don't have the capacity to pay. So, therefore, we do not have any demand for a yacht. Right. The next point right here, it says the prices are the tools by which market coordinate individual desires. Basically, all this means is that the price is basically what determines how much we want something. A lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, price can determine how much of something we're going to buy, how little of something we're going to buy. For example, if the iPhone is on sale for $200, we may be willing to buy a few more of them, right? Maybe we buy two or three instead of just buying one. But if it goes up to $1,000 or $1,500, well, then in that case, we may be buying zero, or we may buy one of them. All right. So the first thing that you have to do, and if you look at the standard up there, if you're following along with this, it says we have to determine the difference between demand and quantity demanded. All right. Quantity demanded, let's start there and start down here at the bottom. Quantity demanded is how much are we willing to buy at a specific price. So if the iPhone is $5, how many iPhones will you buy for a price of $5? If the iPhone is $1,000, how many iPhones will you buy at that price? Whereas your demand up here is just your overall ability to be able to buy something, right? So my demand may be how much would I buy at all prices, right? And I can determine that by just kind of just thinking to myself, well, if it were $5, how many would I buy? If it were $100, how many would I buy? And all these prices together are what make up our demand for something. Okay, moving on. All right, so the law of demand, right? One that you're going to have to be very familiar with because, again, if you look at the standard up here, it says we have to define the law of demand. It says that there's an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. All that means is that they're going to go in the opposite direction, right? And down here, all this says, it says quantity demanded rises as price falls, other things constant, right? All this basically means is that if the price of Gatorade goes from $1 to 50 cents, we're going to buy more Gatorade because as the price of something goes down, the quantity demanded that we have is going to go up. So we are going to want more of something as the price of it drops. And then the exact opposite, as the price of something goes up, we're going to want less of it. And realistically, this shouldn't be too terribly hard because this is exactly how we act all the time anyway. Anytime the price of something goes up, we're going to want less of it. Anytime the price or something goes on sale, then we're usually going to buy more of it than we would have normally. All right, think about the whole, anytime they put Gatorades, and I always pick on Gatorade, but think about it, every time they put Gatorade on sale at a convenience store, or not a convenience store, but a grocery store, and they have them 10 for $10. Well, you see a lot of people just loading their buggies now because as the price drops, the quantity, the amount of something that people want is going to go up. All right, so what happens? Why is it that the law of demand actually even exists? Is because think about this. Sorry, drink my coffee. If the price of Gatorade goes up, what are we going to buy? We might buy Powerade. We might buy some of the Body Armor drinks. We might buy a soft drink, something else. We might buy water, right? But the whole basic concept here is, why does the law of demand actually even exist? Why is it real? Is because we have substitutes, and substitutes are basically things that we can say in our mind that this is just as good as what I was thinking about buying. So we may think that, well, I was going to go get a Gatorade, but Gatorades are $3 and a Powerade's only $1, so I'm going to buy a Powerade. Right? So because we have substitutes available, that's why we tend to not buy things when the price of them goes up. All right, so a demand curve. All right, this is our next point. A demand curve is simply just a graph that shows the law of demand, right? And since the law of demand tells us when the price of something goes up, our quantity demanded goes down, then this curve is going to slope down and to the right, right? So again, just kind of keep that in mind, right? The law of demand and what it tells us, right? When the price of something goes up, quantity demanded is going to go down. When the price of something goes down, the quantity demanded is going to go up. All right, so a demand table is basically, if you remember back in math, the XY tables, right, where you got a list of numbers going down in the X column and you got a list of values going down in the Y column. And then you had to plot it out. And sometimes it came out as a straight line. That's all the demand table shows us, right? And you'll see that on the next slide. I think that's where it's at. Okay, so here is our demand table. And as you can see, we have the price of a cassette, right? So for DVDs, right? I'm sorry, it's an old example, but oh well. Right. So what you can see over here in this column is that steadily the price is going up. So we go from 50 cents to $1 to $2 to $3 to $4. But then over here, our quantity, right, our DVD rentals demanded per week. So the number of rentals that we want at each price. Well, at 50 cents, we want 9. But at $1, we only want 8. And at $2, we want 6. $3, we want 4. $4, we want 2. So as you can see, as the price of this starts to rise, the number of times that we actually want to rent from this place is going to drop. And that's what you see over here. All we've done is, if you look, point A, 9 and 50 cents. Well, it's the same two numbers right here, right? And then you notice, I'm sorry, too, let me back up a little bit, but the price is on the y-axis going up. The quantity is on the x-axis. This is how it will always be. All right, and then we plot point B. Well, that's $1 and 8. And then we plot point C. Well, that's $2. And how many do we want at $2? We want 6. And then $3. Well, how many do we want? We want 4. So we put a dot. Right? And then at $4, how many do we want? We wanted 2. So we put another dot. And then basically all we did was we drew this little green line that connected all the dots, and we made ourselves a demand curve. Again, this is just a cleaner looking picture of the demand curve, but basically the biggest thing to note with the demand curve is which way does it slope, right? It's always going to go down and to the right. You can kind of think that demand starts with D, so the demand curve has to go down. All right, and then again, just kind of another example right here. That's all this is. All right, so Bob, again, his demand curve for DVDs. All right, you can see again the price is dropping right over here. And as the price drops, we'll look what happens to his quantity this time, right? This time his quantity is going up as we go down, because this time the price is going down this time instead of going up on this column. So at point A, at a price of $5, how many DVDs does he want? Well, point A, he's got $5 and he wants 10. At $4, he wants 20. $3, he wants 30. $2, he wants 40. And at $1, he wants 50. And so we have 5 dots, and then we just drew this little red line in between all the dots and connected them, and we made our demand curve. But if you got questions, guys, please let me know.